Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel Nath Online Classes. Today once again I am Vidyasagar is present in front of class 10 to discuss subject chemistry with all of you. So please like the channel and share and subscribe it. Now let us start the discussions. Here today I am going to start a very interesting topic, so its name is carbon and its compound. With the help of which you can understand all the characteristics of carbon and the nature of its compound and the chemistry involved in it. So please let us start the video. Here first of all I am going to introduce about the carbon. Look at the carbon belongs to the group second elements of periodic table, so which symbol is C. So carbon is represented by C, which has atomic number is 6 and its valency is 4, and the atomic masses of carbon is 12 and 14. Valency is equal to 4. It belongs to the second period of the periodic table and it belongs to the 14th group of the periodic table. That's why we can say that it can belongs from the group 4 and subgroup A. So it belongs to group 4A, and the electronic configuration of this carbon is written as 1s2, 2s2, 2p2, and in the orbital form it can be written as 2 and 4. Now let us look at the types of formed bond. The types of bond formed by the carbon is covalent bond. So the types of formed bond is covalent. Now carbon is very amazing versatile elements because it has a large number of compounds. It forms a very large number of compounds. Number of compounds of carbon is greater than the compounds of all elements put together. Even remaining elements form many compounds. However, the number of compounds is more than the number of compounds formed by other elements. Some examples of carbonic substances: paper, wood, plastic, coal, LPG, polymers, etc. And carbon exists as element and compound in the both forms, and all living things, plants and animals are made of carbonic compounds. So it is called as the compounds of carbon also. Now the compound of carbon are so important that the chemistry of carbon compounds forms a separate branch of chemistry known as organic chemistry. The branch of chemistry which deals with the study of carbon is known as organic chemistry. There are three branches of chemistry. One is physical chemistry, second is inorganic chemistry, and third is organic chemistry. Now I am going to discuss about the types of bond. There are three types of bond: ionic bond, covalent bond and coordinate bond. But in this chapter I am going to explain about the covalent bond. Covalent bond, formation of this bond takes place by the sharing of electrons between two atoms. Covalent bonds formed by the sharing of electrons, because you know the some atoms whose valency is 4 cannot gain or lose electrons. That's why when it try to forms octet, it has to share its electrons. In this order they forms a types of bond that is called as covalent bond. Compounds formed by this bond have low melting point and boiling point and so poor conductivity, because covalent bond is bonded with the weak force of attractions. That's why it has low melting point. By giving little heat it can be destroyed and break out, and also it has low boiling point, and the conduction of electron cannot take place very fast. That's why it shows poor conductivity of heat and electricity. The number of electrons contribute by an atoms for sharing in covalent bond is called its covalency. The number of electrons share in formation of bond is known as covalency of that atoms. Now I am going to discuss about the types of bond. As the electrons shared during the formation of bond, depending upon it, there are three types of bond. First is single bond, which is formed by the sharing of only one electron, and the double bond, which is formed by the sharing of only two electrons, and the triple bond, which is formed by the sharing of three electrons. So I have written here the single bond, double bond, triple bond. These are the three types of bond formed by the sharing 1, 2 and 3 electrons pair respectively. Understood? You have to remember all these things. One thing you have to note. What is it? Note, carbon cannot gain or lose 4 electrons due to following reason. The reason behind why the carbon is not able to gain or lose the electron. The reason is written here. It is difficult for nucleus to hold 10 electrons with 6 protons if we add 4 electrons to it, and requires large energy or amount of energy. If we add 4 electrons, then it is very difficult for nucleus to hold 10 electrons. As you know, the number of electrons is equal to number of protons in an atoms. If we so in carbon atoms there are 6 protons, therefore there are 6 electrons also. If we add 4 electrons, then the number of electrons becomes 10, which is unequal in comparison of protons, because there are a force of attraction between them. If there are 10 electrons and 6 electrons, then it may break out the nucleus. That's why it is not possible to hold 10 electrons with 6 protons. That's why it is impossible to add 4 electrons to the nucleus of carbon, to the orbit of the carbon. Now second reason is that it is impossible to lose 4 electrons, because it would be difficult to hold 6 protons with 2 electrons due to high attractive force would applied by the nucleus. If we lose, it is impossible to lose 4 electrons. If it happens, then the number of protons increases in comparison with the electrons present in the atoms of carbons. It is then the high nuclear force applied by the nucleus, then there is a chance of breaking out of nucleus also. So it is difficult to lose 4 electrons. Another reason is it requires very large amount of electron affinities, electron ionization energy, large amount of ionization energy required to lose 4 electrons. It is very difficult for us to provide this large amount of energy to the nucleus of carbon. That's why the atoms of carbon cannot lose the electrons. Neither it can lose the electrons nor it gains the electrons completely. That's why it is provoked to share the electrons to complete its octet, because every element of this universe try to complete its octet to make itself stable. Now the formation of covalent bond. How the covalent bond forms, I am going to explain with the help of this example. Here first of all I am going to explain how the single covalent bond is formed. Let us take an example of an atoms which are formed by the two similar elements. First I am going to explain how the hydrogen molecules form. It can be formed by the similar molecules of two hydrogen atoms. As hydrogen atoms is hydrogen atoms contains only one valence electron. It is shown here by Lewis structure, Lewis notation, and this structure is called as Lewis structure because G.N. Lewis gave an idea to represent an electron by cross or by dot. This notation is called as Lewis notations. Here valence electron of hydrogen atoms are shown by cross, and valence electron of second hydrogen atoms is also shown by cross. Both combined by sharing of its electron edge and form these types of structures or H2 molecules. These are the combined molecules, combined atoms of hydrogen to form hydrogen molecules, and shown by the Lewis structure here. Because in the first cell there are two electrons required to complete its octet. There are two conditions to complete its octet. Is either the first orbit of an element contains two electrons only, or the last cell, last orbit contains 8 electrons. Then it is called as the complete or stable elements or noble elements. That's why every element try to becomes as stable as argon, neon, etc. So here in the first orbit of hydrogen there are two electrons, so it represents itself as helium atoms. So it completes its octet and forms a single bond here, H and H. It is called as hydrogen molecules. Okay. The same things takes place with chlorine. Here there are 7 electrons in the valence shell of chlorine, 2, 8, 7, and it is impossible to lose 7 electrons. So it combines together with the help of sharing of electrons, and by combining it share its electrons. Here as shown in the figure, when two chlorine molecules combine together, then the formation of two chlorine atoms combine together, then the formation of chlorine molecules takes place, and it is shown by the Lewis structures. Here it makes the 8 electron in its orbit, as you can count 2 to 4 to 6 to 8. This is one complete octet, and this is one complete orbit, last shell orbit for chlorine atoms. So both chlorine have 8 electron in its last orbit. That's why it can complete its orbit and represent itself as a noble elements and becomes stable. That's why the formation of chlorine atoms, chlorine molecules takes place. Now the formations of hydrochloride. Here we are going to give the examples of two dissimilar atoms, how it combined to each other with the help of sharing of electrons. Here hydrogen atoms contains only one electron, so it is represented by dot because there are two different atoms are there here. So dot represents the valence electron of hydrogen, and cross sign represents the valence electron of chlorine, and when it combines, then the formation of hydrochloride takes place, as shown by the Lewis structure here. Here the chlorine has share 1 electrons with hydrogen and completes its octet. Also hydrogen share its 1 valence electrons with chlorine to complete its first orbit with 2 electrons and becomes just like an helium atoms, that is stable, and forms a hydrogen chlorides shown here by Lewis structures. Look at here, hydrogen combines with 2 electrons by sharing and chlorine also combined by 2 electrons. Look at this circle. Okay, so both electrons completes its last outermost cells and becomes as a stable elements, and the formation of hydrogen chloride takes place in this way. So these are the representations how single bond takes place with the help of sharing of electrons. One thing you have to note, electrons of valence shell are represented by the dot or cross, and these are called as Lewis notation, as I have told you earlier. Okay, and the number of electrons shared during the formation of bond is called its covalency. Here the covalency of hydrogen atom is 1 and the covalency of chlorine atom is also 1. These things you have to remember. Today I am going to stop my explanations about the carbon and its compound. In the next video I shall meet again with some new interesting explanations. Till that I want to say goodbye. Thank you. You have to remember all these things. Okay, goodbye.